Okay, continuing with the trend of anime content that I promised, Sword Art Online is back again. There's a new movie coming out about augmented reality. It's like a thing you put on your face, turns the world into a video game. Kind of like what we were hoping Google Glass would become, but they couldn't get over the whole privacy issues of it. Even though I think like Ray-Ban just like decided to do it anyways and like not ask it for anybody's permission, right? So, but here we are. More Sword Art Online. It's not dying. It's gonna be here forever. And this is a video reminiscing about when it was the best anime ever. So that's what I'm asking you to do. Let's go back to when it started and everything was cold and everybody dying in video games was cool and there wasn't like a million different anime about people going to another place, and now Isekai is a genre that is huge instead of just like a one-off with like 8 different anime that people care about. Okay, so you know there is no Pokemon Isekai. It doesn't exist. We're back at the beginning.
Sword Art Online is ass.
Cred arc, such a piece of shit.
Sword Art Online is definitely the most disappointing anime ever made.
It's dog, it's a piece of trash, and it's actually a big disappointment and letdown.
Are these real?
You may not remember this, but at one point, Sword Art was king.
It was hard, son. It was cold.
People who didn't like the show, but you could actually say, I like Sword Art, without someone thinking you're a fat dumbass with a lazy eye and 2 dads. Somewhere along the way, the internet began to notice gaping holes in the story.
The only likable character in a dungeon and made Kirito's sister wanna f him.
There's Mother's Basement, who's been farming views on Sword Art for years. The Guckster, of course, got a slice of that pie, can't blame him. Okay, stop eating. Stop eating. And numerous other creators have all shook hands, looked each other in the eyes, and said, we're all gonna act like this is the worst piece of shit ever made! Who's with me? Oh, Cheerio! I'm talking about food! Very good. Yeah.
Who is this balding guy over here?
But what about something like the regular at Magic High School? Hey, like, who invited this guy home? You gotta go, bro. You bastard! Do not fuck with me, man! What an do not fuck with me! You bastard! The funny part is, none of these guys are wrong. The story is stupid. If you take off the nerve gear, a fucking microwave will blow your brain up. This guy is so evil, he starts licking Asuda's tears.
Yeah, okay.
Yummy.
If you genuinely see nothing wrong here, one of your eyes has clearly drifted off into uncharted territory. Call SAO out, absolutely. But where the fuck was that energy in 2012? Look up Sword Art Bad and you'll find something most curious. Videos from 5 years ago, 4 years, 6 years, 4 years, 5 years on Reddit, 5 months. We're all on the same page now. But back in the day, the Sword Art I remember was rapture. The click of a play button would zip me over to another planet. It was the most immersive, the most vast, and the most coolest stuff out at the time. There was no one to tell me it was dog shit, and if there were, their voices would be stifled as a grin shot across my face from one ear to the next while I watched in pure astonishment. I can only assume one reason why I can't find any mainstream criticism of the show right after it came out. Many others had fallen under the spell that was Sword Art.
Hey
and
man,
years
we like
later
it.
Was like, wait, what? Beater?
He's a beta tester and a cheater. He's a beater.
A beater. Yeah, that's good. I like it.
What? That name is dumb as fuck. It's not possible.
You can call me a beater.
But I want to remember why I loved it so much, the impact the show had, and the possibilities it opened up. If only for this short time. Timing was a pretty big reason why I even watched the show. Anime moved way slower in 2012. Today, you can look at any season for the year and find at least 4 good shows if you dig. Back then, we would have for the whole winter. That's why you kids are so spoiled now. There were banger seasons, but the truth is, new anime comes out faster than back in the day. So all of our little eyes were glued to each seasonal release. Fairy Tail was awesome, maybe this one will be cool. Everything was a landmine that would either be a dud or completely blow your socks off. Each season showed me something new. I was a new human, and of all the shows I watched, no one did anything similar to Sword Art. So we're not ready for that. I have something crazy to say first. Gaming was way funner back in 2012. I could go and pretend like I know about hedonic adaptation, but basically anything that makes you happy will make you less happy over time. Like gaming, or anime, both of which I enjoyed leagues more 9 years ago. The last 10 minutes of every school day were characterized by intense eye contact with the clock, jumping out of my skin, waiting to hear that bell so I can run home, press the power button, and hear this.
Satisfying.
Some of you might have heard this. Don't forget to grab a femboy maid outfit on the way in. Gaming was home. At the time, machinima was brutally butt-fucking YouTubers with their permission. Tobuscus was on top, PewDiePie hit his first million, Smosh Games, Game Grumps. I honestly believe gaming was at a peak here, not just for me, but millions of kids out there.
Synchronizing with the Gameverse. Initializing racism, misogyny, homophobia, ableism, trace amounts of urine detected, shit bucket detected. You have reached the criteria to play video games online. Welcome to SAO.
What this first episode did was, the extravagant architecture, the different biomes, the sound effects. There's PK guilds, then iconic UI, perishable items, special event monsters. Don't even try to tell me you don't remember the scene.
We could stand here all day and you wouldn't get anywhere.
There's only one anime that really makes me feel like I'm in an RPG. Not the one with the stinky ass skeleton, not the one with the shield, it's Sword Art.
No.
Those sound effects are fucking important. The ring bounces around my head years later. This is something that a real game has. The landscape shots that could have not happened breathe life into an authentic universe. This little forest area has a bridge thing. Giant pillars spill out from the sky with no explanation, and yet the sky remains slightly distorted to remind you that this bustling environment is superficial. The stage was set to actually immerse you. You believe in this world where if you die in the game, you're Dunyan Rings, buddy. Sword Art Online breezed past its competition that season, then said, hold up, put it in reverse, saw Chitose, get you! Looked at it and said, really? Don't let me catch you out here again. And hit the gas. It had the greatest premise, some of the best fights, and highest stakes all the way up until he beat the game. What a feeling of catharsis, man.
And it should have
stuck in the game, and Kirito has to go back and save her, and I'm thinking, everybody's putting the Oculus back on? This is also the part of Sword Art where Kirito's cousin sister falls madly in love with him.
Falls in love with
my brother.
And we all went, why? Damn it.
And that's something I can't tell anyone about.
And the downward slope happened and no one could stop it. It just went out the window. And I had to just sit here like a dork as my videos, which are timeless of me complimenting the anime, exist. And people see them after this exists but didn't exist then and be like, Chavez thinks these are the same. And now I have to be like, yeah, they're the same.
Now, I had never seen some Alabamian shit like this, so I was not very happy. Regardless, the Elfheim arc managed to reclaim some of the glory it once had. Kirito is still that guy, dominating inferior gamers in the craziest fights possible. No, it was not as good as the first arc, but I still liked it all the way up to the point where he beats the game and saves Asuna. And then the government is like, Kirito, maybe you could hop in the Oculus again? And at this point, I had checked out because that simply makes no fucking sense. But before that, wow. To some extent, I'd always inserted myself into the anime I was watching. Like, I genuinely thought I would have fairy tale magic one day. Sword Art provided a perfect vessel that scratched an itch deep into my personality. If I were trapped in this world, I would be built differently. I would level up super fast. I'd certainly gotten overpowered in RPGs before. It didn't matter that Kirito was undoubtedly a shithead, because when we watched, his presence was irrelevant. Us pissy little kids were in Aincrad. There were these globs of polish spread around the world to make it shine. That meant everything to someone like me who lived vicariously through the characters on screen. I wanted to have 2 fucking swords and run around in the games I love. The show came out when our standards were a little different, weeks before the Oculus Rift was announced, with a concept that was so goddamn ahead of its time it was impossible not to crush it. Not with that quality. It's not a coincidence that we didn't really start seeing RPG-inspired Isekai until post-Sword Art. New Time magazine rated Kirito as the #1 most popular male character of the decade alongside Asuna at the number 2 for females. The light novel was voted number 1 in the decade by people who probably can't read. I believe that with the meteoric rise of sword art, studios probably saw potential in adapting anime with similar themes. Worlds packed with RPG elements where you could level up and be special. A ton of novels existed that fit that criteria for years, but it's not until slightly after sword art that we see stuff like Log Horizon getting adapted and making a buzz. Okay, it's not just anime studios. The founder of Oculus Rift stated that he wants to take after sword art and is currently involved in a project to create a game with serious consequences. The creators of Genshin Impact plan on making the largest virtual game in history, with models inspired by sword art. The franchise spread roots in various facets of pop culture. The show connected with something that a lot of people had been waiting for, something that caught on like wildfire. All on fucking accident. Reiki Kawahara was a normal guy that liked drawing manga. He also grew up with 2 sisters, so what the fuck was that about? He spent his time in college either drawing in the manga studies club or playing games like WoW and Phantasy Star Online. However, he would slowly realize that drawing manga was way too much work, and to my knowledge spent the next 3 years pooping around. In 2001, Kawahara decided, while having exactly 0 experience, that he would apply for the Dengeki Novel Prize and wrote the entire Aincrad arc, the first half of sword art, on a whim, and didn't even end up submitting it because he exceeded the word count by 120 pages. His attachment to the story would not let him throw it away, so he posted it online. Thanks to fan support, he felt motivated to keep writing, and 7 years later he submitted his new work, Excel World, which actually got published as a novel, prompting the publisher to be like, hey, this sword art shit is pretty cool too. Do you want me to print this out also? And Kawahara was like, yeah, let me just clean it up a little bit. Eventually, the 2 were given an anime, first Excel World and then Sword Art. This monster of a franchise was fueled by a failed novel submission from 2001. No shit, there's flaws with the story. Kawahara had never written anything before. The reason why we resonate with the plot is because Kawahara is a gamer through and through. Yet, the reason why we hate on it now is because he was not a writer. As he's gained experience, he's collected so many regrets about the series, particularly making his female characters trophies to be saved and earned. He admits there's obvious plot holes with the nerf gear and just couldn't think of another way to have the players get trapped in a game. And I get it. If my first video was the one everyone knew me by, I'd have some regrets too.
Right.
You know what makes my balls itch?
But regardless of his lack of
oh, hell no. Oh, hell no.
The story came from a real place. Kawahara genuinely wanted to imagine what he would do if he were trapped in a video game. It comes through in scenes where Asuna shows us how food is cooked under the game's engine. Kirito is a loner because Kawahara himself would play solo. American players would get pissed at him for the language barrier and he would just do his own thing. This guy was sharing pieces of himself. It's something that pierces through the bad writing, which is incredible because holy fuck, the writing's bad. Before I dug into his past, I could tell this was made by a gamer. Someone who probably wanted to see all the things he was writing about. A world where he put his gaming knowledge to practice and became someone who stood out even when playing by himself. There is a great list of things that sword art is not, but it was an outlet for us kids. I could peer into a distant fantasy at a time where I wanted it the most. Sure, people dunk on it, rightfully so. Just know that for now, I'm not joining in because I remember a time when sword art was the best anime ever.
Cute.
Are you winning, son? You know what? Yeah, dads. I am.
Very cute video. Very cool. Acknowledging flaws without having to go all crazy YouTuber. It's the worst thing that's ever existed about it. Which I like. Because that is the most annoying part about being on this website, is that if everybody doesn't agree exactly in tow, then you have to be wrong. But it's fine. There's a lot of things wrong with it. I think calling out the writing on SAO, you know, as the reason that you don't like it is obviously like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, so many anime are written like just dog shit. Like that just are literally just the worst writing. Like, people in anime communities are fan fiction writers with a good budget, even if that. Like, the writing is normally just so garbo. The character development is so hard to consistently get in anime. Like, you're just taking a shot in the dark. Maybe these are real people and real things. Maybe it's just a thing about a thing, and you have to pretend like the people don't exist. And that just is how it is. Anime about martial arts normally has no amount of personhood in it. It's just about punching things, and you need stereotypes to punch things and a sick person to think about to power you up to punch more things, right? We ignore the middle of it, you know? But at this time, like before Isekai as a stereotype was really pushed, Sword Art Online did a great job of encapsulating what we want this Isekai genre to be like in the future. And I think that was its best contribution, other than the first 2 seasons that came out, which were just fun to watch. You know, a low stakes anime, you have a good time. They would have removed some incest, it would still hold up. Make the love interest not your sister. It's not that hard. All right. But anyways, I do enjoy it. I even enjoyed the games when they came out. They were super gimmicky and bad. And just as bad as they were, it just made me really reminisce about this show and all of its flaws. And I just love that. I really did enjoy that part. But anyways, let's do it. Let's move on to the next vid. I'll see you guys around. Peace.